The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
構成藤田 Listening Keeping Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping it strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review Blue Justice 16 and cover all its news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network and Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Chop Tea store, chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style merchandise. There's free shipping on every order and 10% off your first order. Chop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP subscribers. If you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, you can sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here on the show. I'm glad to be back in high quality audio. Not having to, yeah, it's funny because last week's episode, I knew that I sounded, not great because of the method we were using to record, but I didn't realize that you were all, for some reason, when you said we're going to have to do it through a phone call, I thought your quality was also going to be diminished. I didn't comprehend the fact that it was still going through the roadcaster and somehow your quality didn't diminish. So I'm sitting here thinking we both sound throwback. It's going to be like a gimmick for the show. And then I go back and I listen to I didn't listen to the whole thing, obviously, but I listened to some of it just to check the quality. And I was like, wait a second, it's just me. Only I sound terrible. So I feel like I got worked there is essentially what happened.
Well, yeah, I had to use the Bluetooth feature on the roadcaster to Bluetooth you in from the phone to the roadcaster. So great little feature there because, yeah, I didn't have internet. My house got hit by lightning last week and fried my internet. So
for some reason, it didn't compute that you would be just jacked into the roadcaster. I should have thought of that. So I don't know. I didn't think of that. Everything good with obviously we're streaming. So I'm assuming, they came through, got your internet restored.
Yeah, I had to get, the whole new router. Which is always the worst because then you get a new network. You got to reset all your laptops, your smart TVs, all your smart devices. You have to update with the new Wi-Fi and password. And some things are easier than others. The Google Nest and the Google Doorbell is like the biggest pain to try and update the Wi-Fi, but yeah,
we have a Ring doorbell, right? And it's kind of it's a work because when we first got it, it was kind of recording some of the audio or the visuals when the motion came by, but it was like a limited trial. And then after a certain period of time, it was like, if you're linked into it, you can go live. And if someone's in front of the door, you can see it live, but none of it is getting saved. And you can't go back and rewatch it. Like you have to see it in real time. In order to have that shit, you got to pay for it. And it's really not that expensive. I think it's like, I don't know. I don't want to misquote it, but I think it's like $5 a month or something like that. But it's like, we just haven't gotten around to turning it on. So it just exists. It's kind of more of a deterrent for people to think that they're like being recorded or whatever. But here's the thing is like, I don't really know the ins and outs of how it works. Somehow, I'm not sure how, but somehow it is tied to our Amazon Fire TV without us ever having done anything. And we don't have an Alexa. We used to have an Alexa in the house. We don't because, we don't need the government, even though the NSA is already listening to everything we do and everything. It's just like, I don't need that shit in our house or whatever. Plus, bro, it used to piss me off. So my wife, I love her, but she would always go, Alexa, what's the weather outside? And the Alexa would just start like spouting off. And I'm like, bro, we got a fucking phone in front of me. Just ask me. I'll just Google it. I don't want to hear this machine. Thank you for asking. The weather in blah, 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 blah. And I hate it, bro. And it's a spiel. It goes on and on and on. So anyways, the reason I brought it up is because like when someone goes in front of the fucking doorbell, it takes over the TV screen. And I don't understand how it's doing that or how to get rid of it. And we never set it up in the first. It's fucking confusing. Like I hate technology, bro.
Oh man, yeah, sounds like you're definitely getting worked with that. Yeah, I got the Google Nest doorbell, which it links to like your Google Home app, and I could go back and watch. I could see live. I get notifications when somebody's in front of the door. But now I got to figure out how to get the new network on it. So right now it's kind of like yours. Like it's not really recording anything. It's just kind of sitting there until I can get the new network on it. But besides that, internet is good, back up in line. So
one other thing is I had to get a new phone. My phone just like isn't charging that well anymore, And what fucking sucks about it is like back in 2022 or 2023, I had just gotten like a brand new phone and I was crossing the road and it fell out of my pocket.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was getting an oil change. And it's right across the street from where we live, but it got ran over. So I didn't have protection on it. So they're like, oh, you're going to have to buy outright your new phone. So that's the phone I have now. It's like a Galaxy 22 or whatever. So it's like, it's paid off. I own it, but they make these, and you know me, like I'm not a tech guy. I don't need the latest and greatest. I'll be honest with you, Jeremy. I haven't noticed any difference in my phones in the past like 8 years. Like whether it was like the 7 or the 8 or the 22, they're all the fucking same. They all run the same. They all got chrome on them. You know what I mean? Like what they all got sheets. Like what am I going to do? It's all the same shit. You can stream Netflix or whatever the fuck, but they make these things to break down. So you'll keep buying them. They're not worth what they value them at because it's like they get slower, and I feel like they upload software that makes it slower over time. And they stop charging. The batteries start dying on these things. So I went and I ordered this new phone. It's right here. I've had it for like a week, but I don't want to transfer everything from that phone to this phone. It's not that hard. Like I got to take the SIM card out and put it in, but bro, it's all the effort at like what you were talking about, like where you have to, after it's all transferred over, right? All the apps are going to carry over the text, the pictures, yada, yada. That's no big deal. But then you got to go into the apps
and log back into everything.
In everything, bro. And it takes so long. And I've been too busy like to even do that. So, I got this phone's just been sitting here. It's a new 24 or whatever, but my wife was like, are you gonna transfer that? Like, and I was like, I got 30 days. I'm like Brian Danielson over here. Like, I've got 30 days. I've got
till 30. Oh man. Speaking of technology, so I was in San Francisco all last week for a work conference, and they have the Waymo gimmicks out there, the self-driving cars.
Hell yeah.
We rode in one of those, dude. That was like the craziest experience ever. Like, that's like the first moment I was like, is this some like Jetson stuff right here? Like, car rolls up, picks you up, has like a monitor on it where it sees all the cars, it sees people crossing the street, perfect stops.
It sounds cool, like for other people. but I don't want to be the person in that car.
I don't know. It was a pretty cool experience.
Bro, I've seen too many horror movies where technology like gains sentience and takes over, and then they like trap you and kill you or whatever. Like, or a bad guy, you know, takes over and forces you to get into a crash. Like, I don't need all that. Like, I like. One last thing I want to bring up, because I know we're doing some chit chat here, but you just went to San Francisco. I know it was a work thing, and then you're going to Norway for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you're going to Japan at the end of the year. And like today, I'm just going to peel back the curtain. We were talking about getting our pay for Keepin It Strong Style. It's been a while since I've been paid out. And I'm just wondering, how are you affording to go on all of these trips? And I'm just wondering, does it have something to do with the fact, I know we've been doing well. I know the number's been coming in and we've been racking up some money, but it's not in my pocket. And then here you are traveling, taking time off, not doing the show for 2 weeks. I'm just wondering, do I have to worry about the misappropriation of my money?
No. You can ask everybody on the network. Everybody gets their pay. I'm not fudging the numbers or anything. It's all about saving money, man. Saving money and zero interest credit cards for 12 months.
Nice. I actually I noticed that I like fucked up our accounting. I was scrambling. I actually don't know what I messed up, but I got it all worked out, so we're good. But I don't know how it happened. Like, I'm pretty meticulous with that stuff, but yeah, I don't know. Somehow there was like it wasn't that much. It was like $90 just unaccounted for. I just split it between us. We're good, but something happened. Anyways.
Well, let's jump into what we got to this week. So we had the Yuji Nagata produced Blue Justice 16 this past Sunday, September 7th, from the Tokina Arena, had an attendance of 1,509. We'll run through the results here and any kind of story beats that happened throughout the card.
I do want to say that for the building, that was I don't have a comparison point, but compared to a lot of the houses during G1, they might have done comparable numbers from time to time, but it looked like a really good house because the place was filled, including like the floor and the bleachers and the top level and everything.
Yeah, and the crowd was just really lively. Like they were all about seeing Nagata.
They love Nagata,
and the whole night they were pretty loud, pretty active, and especially during the main event. So yeah, it was a good atmosphere for the show. And it opened up. We had Young Lion action. We had Masatora Yasuda and Zane J defeating Tetsuya Matsumoto and Tiger Mask 7 minutes 50 seconds. And they did say this was going to be Tiger Mask's last time, I believe, wrestling in that arena. He got some flowers and kind of celebrating that. And with all that said and done, it was very surprising that his team was on the losing end, because normally you see Young Lion veteran, it's like, oh, well, the two Young Lions are definitely losing. Like, he's about to eat a Tiger Driver, but it was Yasuda picking up the win over Matsumoto.
That's exactly what I was thinking when I turned it on. So I was like, I was paying attention, but I wasn't giving it like all of my concerted effort and energy. It's like, we know what's going to happen here. But I will say the match did capture me a little bit. It's a preview Road 2 show, so I'm not going to go super in depth with, my opinions on the match quality or whatever, but I do really like the interactions and the work from Matsumoto and Zane J. And I feel like Zane J is going to be the one, probably only, well, I can't say only, but as of right now, like the major success story coming out of the New Japan Academy system,
yeah,
which is technically a continuation, but different version of the dojo. Like, I don't count it as the dojo because it's not the same.
Yeah, there's definitely a clear delineation between LA Dojo, Shibata, and the Academy run by Rosser and Kushida.
Exactly. And for him to be one of those guys that like came up through the ranks and finally made it to Japan and is like on this level, I think he's doing really well. But Yasuda picking up the win. I know it wasn't over Tiger Mask, but the fact that he picked up the win over the other Young Lion on a team that included a veteran was very surprising.
Yeah, and we had a couple questions here. And Kangaroo in Discord says, Would you be on board with Masatora Yasuda as a new Tiger Mask like they hinted on the show?
Yeah, they seem to be hinting that sort of thing. And it's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's a familiar gimmick that has so much time and history behind it. And every single Tiger Mask has been different from the one that preceded it. So you're not completely pigeonholed into like just cosplaying Sayama or just cosplaying Kanemoto or whatever the fuck. Like, you can kind of put your own spin on it, but still get endearment from the audience. At the same time, it's a huge, gimmick to try and live up to, with a lot of pressure and a lot of difficulty in the fact that, like, working under a mask isn't always, it's double-edged. It can be a blessing and give you a lot of benefits in terms of your work, but it also can be hard to emote, hard to connect. You kind of have to adapt to that style. The other thing too is, like, I don't want to be too much of a traditionalist. I know Yasuda is part Japanese, but like all of the Tiger Masks have been like fully ethnically like nationals. And he is, multi-ethnic. I think his, father is Mexican. So
yeah.
But at the same time, that also kind of lends itself, because of the rich history between the Tiger Mask gimmick and Mexico in general, between Tiger Mask 4, Tiger Mask 1, and the Lucha Rezu connection. So maybe that still works out. But I don't know. It's a tall order. You know who, if I was being honest, and I think it's too late for this boat, and it's something that a lot of people lobbied for in the past, and I think with hindsight being 2020, I think Master Wato would have been a very good Tiger Mask 4 and probably would be in a better spot for his career right now had he adopted that. Or I'm sorry, Tiger Mask.
He'd be 6, right?
Technically 6. I mean, I don't know how they want to handle that chronology, because, Manoa Man, the famous MMA fighter, he was working as Tiger Mask 5 for a period of time, which, like, it was so brief, it almost doesn't count, but it had the endorsement from both Sayama as well as Tiger Mask 4. So it's like their stamp of approvals on it. So I don't know. I guess it would be Tiger Mask 6, but yeah. I don't know.
And where does Tiger Mask W fall in line?
Bro, there was an incredible thread on Twitter many years ago that cataloged the entirety of the Tiger Mask mythos. Every Tiger Mask version that had ever existed, every variant that was a spin-off from Tiger Mask, and it included all of the Black Tigers and all of the Black Tiger variants. And, like, bro, there's a lot of Tiger Masks that have been, in fact, there were Tiger Masks before Sayama that are, like, not part of the official canon, but they like existed because there's been other people who used that name and worked under masks. They're not connected in any way. They just happen to exist. So I wish someone should find that. But, like, it even talked about, like, the Joshis that have worked under the Tiger gimmicks and, like, similar masks and stuff. And yeah, it's pretty wild. There's a lot out, Extreme Tiger and, when TJP was like Puma and shit like that,
Yeah, and ACH being a Tiger the Dark to go against Tiger Mask W.
Yeah, there's been a ton of Dark Tigers and Black Tigers, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And, the point that you mentioned about, like, the mask, Kota Ibushi, he had that Tiger Mask W mask that was, like, too big, and, like, he was trying to do all his flips and stuff, and yeah, he couldn't really see well. So yeah, depending on the mask, it could definitely be a detriment.
The Kota Ibushi thing is so funny because it was in that weird space where, like, he wasn't working directly with New Japan any longer. He kind of was, he was doing, like, the WWE Cruiserweight Classic, and he was working a lot of, pro indies. And then he was, like, brought in to be Tiger Mask W. And he had said, I want to become Tiger Mask. Like, that way, I don't want to be Kota Ibushi in New Japan anymore. I want to be Tiger Mask, and I'm going to change my style and adopt this moniker and, like, really embody it. That was, like, the idea. And every match he ever had, he was just Kota Ibushi. He worked exactly like he was Kota Ibushi. There was no difference. And you're like, yeah, that's Kota Ibushi under there. Like you can 100%, and there's been, obviously there's worse things than to be peak Ibushi, but it is just funny that he was so adamant, like with his speeches, backstage about what he wanted to do. And he did the total opposite.
Yeah. And, my whole feelings on Yasuda potentially taking over Tiger Mask. Like, I mean, I guess like it could be something that, like you mentioned, could help him out, kind of taking on a familiar gimmick. But I don't know. I'm kind of to the point where I feel like let's try something new. Like we've had several Tiger Masks, like you mentioned, and I don't know. I just feel like, with this gimmick, when you think about like movies and TVs, like everybody's just going to like, let's reboot this, let's remake that, let's, bring back all this old stuff. And I'm like, where's the creativity? Let's try something. Let's create a new star, a new gimmick that can get over for this generation instead of relying on the past and almost being like a crutch of like, all right, here you go. Like we're giving you this handmade gimmick to get over. And then if it flops, it's like, well, you weren't worthy of being a Tiger Mask, and then you go down in history one of the worst Tiger Masks, or you get over and it's like, oh, well, you only got over because you were Tiger Mask, because we gave you that gimmick, not because of actually your skill. And so I think it'd be better for him to just kind of create something new, get his own gimmick, and not have to rely on the legacy of Tiger Mask.
Well, Misawa, he hated working as Tiger Mask, and it was not his idea, and he was kind of just saddled with the gimmick. And then Kanemoto really put his all into it. But the problem is, by the time Kanemoto was Tiger Mask 3, Liger was in, at his apex. And eventually it came to the point where those two guys couldn't coexist in the same company, because it's like, there's only space for one superhero character. And, they did the mask versus mask match, and Kanemoto, started the other, period of his career. And he wasn't accepted in the same way that Liger was. I'm not too opposed to someone adopting the gimmick. I like the idea. Like, for instance, they've got the new Hayabusa going on out there.
Yeah.
And he works and he proclaims that he's not a different wrestler adopting the gimmick.
It's him.
Spiritually, he is Hayabusa, but he works very, very similarly to the real, to the original Hayabusa.
The same build, and like, it's like you have to like double take to be like, oh wait a minute, like
yeah, that part is pretty crazy. But there is a precedent in New Japan for guys that go and work under the mask, start their career as young lions. And we saw that with Desperado, we saw that with I believe Bushi. Liger was that way. Liger was pushed, but as a young guy, as Kichi Yamada, way before he ever became Jushin Thunder Liger. So I would be okay with one of these guys adopting the moniker, and I feel like there could be a push behind it. I don't think there's anything wrong with you being opposed to it, but that's just my preference. Like, I think it would be okay, but you got to pick the right guy. Here's my one thing about Yasuda. I like Yasuda. I don't know if he matches the energy that I want to see out of a Tiger Mask. You know,
at least not yet.
My favorite Tiger Mask is Sayama. And the whole thing with Sayama was the way he would glide across the ring, and he would work the sideways shuffle, and then the incredible karate kicks and everything like that. And really, very few guys have ever tried to emulate and recapture the spirit of what Sayama brought to the Tiger Mask gimmick. And I would love to see someone. Here's my thing, Jeremy. You're right. I don't just want to rehash. I don't want a young lion working, classic chain wrestling with the mask on, and maybe they do a suicide dive here or there, and that's about it. I want someone who is innovative, who is doing incredible. They don't have to work just like any of the other guys, but they need to bring stiffness with their strikes. They need to bring a dynamicism and an athleticism, because there's so much of, regardless of who it's been, there's always been an overstated athleticism that's tied to that gimmick. I know that Yamazaki, like Tiger Mask 4, if you're just watching in the past like 10 years, that might not stand out to you, but like in 2005, 2004, like he was a different guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what here's the thing. I don't know if Yasuda has that in him. Maybe he does, but these guys are limited to what they can do as young lions. We can't always see what they're capable of when they like come back. So if he has that in him, if he can work, cool Yave, mixing the Lucha Rezu and, be innovative and high flying and daring and exciting, then sure. But I don't know if he has that. And I don't think it's enough to just be like, yeah, he's a guy with some heritage. Let's put a mask on him. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't need a Tiger Mask Jag. Like, if you're gonna be Tiger Mask, like I feel you gotta be special. You just can't be another guy on the roster with being Tiger Mask. I don't think that would really work. So, like we said, we don't know. I mean, when he comes back from excursion, he could come back with a whole different personality. We've seen that with Yuto-Ice, who we'll talk about here in a few minutes. So we'll see what happens with him. We also had a question here from MJ. He says, Matsumoto looks like another blue chipper in the dojo. Is Talent ID one of NJPW's strongest competencies as an organization? What do you think? Yeah, I think historically, New Japan's always been very good at scouting and recruiting talent. You look at guys like Bolton Oleg, some of these amateur wrestler guys, Yuji Nagata's kind of in the amateur wrestling system and bringing in amateur wrestler guys. And I feel like since we've been really covering it, I feel like a lot of great athletic guys or, really great bodybuilding guys, great physiques have kind of come through that dojo. And New Japan's really good at kind of spotting talent in and outside of the wrestling world.
They're really good at not only scouting outside talent and upcoming, young potential, raw guys that they can mold, but their way of training, their dojo system is unparalleled. And the results prove themselves. The amount of guys that they've been able to build that have gone on to do, amazing things in the wrestling world. I think they have the greatest track record of that. Say what you will about modern day New Japan and some of their struggles. Like, sure. And here's the thing. This is not me advocating being like, they can create a star on a whim. Like, I don't think it's that, but in terms of like developing talent, showing them how to work and how to, become somebody, like, they're the best.
Yeah, I mean, you can put any, Noge Dojo class up against any, PC class. Like, Noge Dojo is going to, like, mop the floor if anybody that comes out of the PC. Like, they just really get those fundamentals of wrestling. And even if they don't become, Okada, like, they still have this, like, level of wrestling and understanding of in-ring awareness that guys that come through the PC or come through, like, your local wrestling school just don't have.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it does come down to the fundamentals, but even more so, it's the physicality. Like the conditioning that they put them through is, tip top notch and anywhere in the world. Like, you could be in superb shape and you still might not be able to complete the workouts that they do. The only place that I've ever, and here's the thing, I don't know everything that goes on in every school in the world, but the one place where I've ever heard has, and I'm sure there's probably some other dojos, in Japan that are comparable. I don't want to like diminish what, the Stardom girls do or like what Noah does or whatever. But, the only place that I firsthand know has comparable conditioning and talent development is CMLL. They say that like going to CMLL and training there, it's one of the hardest workouts you could possibly do on the same. It's different, but on a similar level to what they do in the Noge dojo. And it's very, very, very rigorous and difficult to train there.
Well, let's move on to the next match up here. So we had the House of Torture team of Dick Togo, Don Fale, and Evil defeating Katsuya Murashima, Bolton Oleg, and Shomakato in 724. So this was to heat up the Don Fale and Bolton Oleg never title match coming up.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose of the match. This just served as a what's the word? As a preview for Oleg Bolton and Don Fale.
Yeah, nothing too crazy to write home there on this one. So following that, we had the in-ring debut of the Knockout Brothers. So we had the Knockout Brothers, OSKAR and Yuto-Ice, teaming up with Clark Connors, and they defeated the team of Taichi Takamichinoku and Tomioka Hanma in 9 minutes and 6 seconds. Josh, what do you think about the Knockout Brothers?
You almost called them Youngblood.
Yeah.
I think that number one, I forgot that they were even War Dogs, and when I was watching this, I was like, why the fuck are they teamed up with Clark Connors? And you know what that reminds me of? I feel like we're starting to move into this. Hold on one. How about you continue the thought? My dog is upset.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for their first kind of in-ring appearance here, I thought they looked pretty good, especially Yuto-Ice. I'm all in on him so far. I'm loving this. Fraser told us about, the Yankee culture we're in Japan, which is his gimmick is kind of based off of, and he's just owning that. I love the charisma that's coming off of him walking out of the ring, and I think just everything about his energy is just I'm digging it. I love the knees he's throwing, and he's the bumbleclaps when he's throwing the knees, and I just think that he's really owned the gimmick. I think he looks way better than when he was a young lion, and I think he's really coming into his own, and I think if he kind of keeps this up, there can be some real promise with him. OSKAR, I thought, was fine. I think he's kind of in the stage of I kind of just have to be this big guy, and so he was just kind of doing scoop slams and spamming big boots, which is fine. Hopefully that he will kind of learn. I think he's trying to learn. He's working more as a big guy than he did when he was a young lion, obviously, and so I think he's still trying to figure that out some. But besides that, he was fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say this reminds me of a certain period in the Bullet Club history where you started to get these very strange team ups where they weren't from the same era, so they didn't seem to make sense, and you'd have Hangman Adam Page teamed up with Yujiro, teamed up with I don't know, Cody, and it's just what? These guys are Chase Owens teaming up with House of Torture, and it's what's going on right now? So it reminded me of that a little bit. I think the vibes were different between all those guys. With that being said, though, I agree with almost everything that you said there about the Knockout Brothers. Now, I think that this was obviously, it's just a beginning preview, so it's hard for me to base off of what we just saw to say yeah, Yuto-Ice has the goods, and he's gonna be, he's gonna do X, Y, Z, and he can go out there and he can kill it. I can't say that just yet, but in terms of ring presence, connecting with the crowd, charisma, creativity, and having good looking offense, his kicks are fucking awesome.
Yeah, his kicks, his knees.
Yeah, the knees are okay. I didn't love the knees, but I did think that him saying bomba clap, doing the shaggy, him doing the shaggy thing was fucking hilarious. Yuto or OSKAR was on Twitter, and he's I don't know what to tell you guys. He got really into Shaggy during our excursion. So that stuff is funny. I think his look is really good too. This was a guy that I never thought looked good as a young lion, really.
Same.
And he's got the build, and I hate to be too much of a body fetishist guy, but for me, aesthetically, and this is coming from a completely straight, perspective. I think dudes with gigantic pecs just especially for pro wrestling, balance out and have the best look. And he's got cannon, like bro, he's got boobs, bro. Like, you know, he's pop, 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 you know, and some of my favorite wrestlers like that, Lex Luger, you know, Prime Kojima, you know, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, well, not Hulk Hogan, but, you know, like Hulk Hogan before we knew all the bad stuff about him, you know. You know, he's got that similar like build. And I was like, damn, like this he's in great shape. He's got good gear. He's got charisma he gets it. Like, this is a guy who gets it.
From the minute that music hits, he's out there doing his thing, and he just owns the room. He owns the ring. And like, this is what we've been saying about these young guys. It's like, you gotta like own it, like present yourself as a star. Like, he comes out and I feel like he is a star. He is different. He's unique. He's capturing the audience attention, and you see the online reaction. Like, everybody's like loving him and into what he's doing, and I think he's onto something here.
I disagree about the whole Oscar thing. When you said he just looked fine, this is just me personally. Number one, the build, juggernaut, bro. Like, he's put on a lot of size. It kind of reminds me of, remember what Kyle Fletcher looked like during the pandemic?
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people probably didn't see him during that era, like during the clap crowd. Bro, during clap crowd era, what was that? Rev Pro?
Yeah.
He was fucking enormous, bro. And he reminded me physically very similar. I mean, Yuto Nakashima is taller, or not. I'm sorry, Oscar Luebe is taller, but similar build to that era of Kyle Fletcher. But bro, he was out there working like a big man, but like, it worked in the context of this tag team match, and it just kind of gave me Kevin Nash vibes.
Yeah, I did get Kevin Nash vibes from him. Just as, I don't know, I guess I want to see, again, it's the first preview tag match. I think because I was very high on Oscar as a young lion.
Yeah, that was your guy.
Yeah, and so I guess I want to see a little bit more from him. But again, it was only a 9-minute preview tag, and when he was in, I mean, he was just kind of showing his size, you know, doing the big boots, doing the big body slams, and kind of getting over as a big guy. But yeah, down the line, I think I would like to see a little bit more from him.
And you know what? I mean, if you're a big dude, I mean, how much you just gotta go out there and be fucking awesome. You know, you don't have to be a work rate machine. You know,
yeah.
How many 5-star classics Sid have? You know.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for him to lean more like into the Walter / Gunther style and just like destroy people with chops and power bombs and just throw people around more.
We'll see, but I'm not discounting anything about either of these two guys just yet. The other thing too is I really like their finisher.
The KOB.
Kick, yeah, the KO, which knockout bitch, is that what it is? Yeah. So it's like you know, it's a head kick while Oscar is giving him the tombstone. And I'm like, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, that was.
So
yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, their finish is awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, we spent the whole time just talking about these two guys. I mean, who did they even wrestle? I know Hama was in there.
Taichi and Taka. So this was a preview for the tag title match. Ishii is on the way back to Japan.
Right.
And so, you know, there was a lot of heat on them. And Taichi, they jumped Taichi after the match, after they won, and held a tag title up. And Yuto's talking that smack, like, Ishii, where you at? Come get your boy.
Yeah, Taichi look, you know, he wasn't looking happy as he walked to the back or whatever. And the one thing that did stand out to me in this match were the interactions between Taka and Yuto Nakashima, like or Yuto-Ice, I should say. Taka seemed to be like motivated to work with this kid, and they had some pretty good sequences. So yeah, I thought it was good.
Yep. We have some questions here. Rambone Slam Picks says, do you think Gato will go all in on pushing the Knockout Brothers to win the tag title so soon after coming back, or will they need to hang around doing nothing of note for 2 or 3 years first?
I mean, the tag team titles haven't been successfully defended in like over a year, and it would just seem like an easy layup. I already gave my rationale why I think they're going to win the title like almost immediately a week or two back. But I'd be surprised if they didn't win the belt immediately. I think they're getting the Roppongi 3K sort of push here.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of dumb for them not to win the titles at this point. Like, they're already kind of catching steam, picking up some momentum, a fresh new team. You need a new dominant team in a division. I would go all in on these guys. Death Triangle 720, we kind of already touched his first question. His next question, what do you think benefits tag division more? The new team win the tag titles on the first try. The other option, Ishii, Taichi hold to Wrestle Kingdom, then lose to KOB.
I don't really see the purpose of them continuing to hold the title for a lengthy period unless you're like really invested in the idea of them as a tag team moving forward. And I think it was more just like a Cinderella man sort of moment for them to pick up the straps, but I don't think they're destined to be a long-term tag team that the fans connect with. And I think they both have other things they could be doing anyway. So yeah, I think that reinvigorating the tag team division is going to involve doing something fresh and exciting and putting the title on new guys. Unfortunately, do I think like Ishii and Taichi have the goods to carry the belt and have exciting matches? Like, absolutely. Like they're probably one of the best pairings where you could do that. But sometimes it's not always just about that, the quality.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like they were just kind of a stopgap until they figured stuff out, because you just had so much stuff happening with Cobb leaving, Naito leaving, and like it has to be that this tag title picture was not what they planned out at the beginning of the year. And so to me, it just kind of felt like, all right, we can throw Ishii and Taichi together, hold us over to G1, and then we know we're bringing the Knockout Brothers in, and we'll go from there. So that was it for that preview match. Then following that, we had unaffiliated Daiki Nagai, Hiromu Takahashi, Shingo Takagi, and Yota Tsuji defeating the War Dogs team of David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, Gato, and Taiji Ishimori in 10 minutes and 26 seconds.
I thought that this reminded me of some of the, very good chemistry that we've praised LIJ for having through the years. Very reminiscent of that style match. I thought it was a good learning experience for Daiki Nagai to be kind of mixing it up on that level with those guys and kind of getting brought into the fold. And then, there were some really good previews going on here, whether it was Taiji Ishimori and Hiromu, who were about to have a big singles match. I'm sure we'll get to it in the news, but Hiromu just picked up the Noah GHC Junior crown today. So I don't know if I am wondering where that's headed, because it's like, we'll talk about it later, but yeah, that's interesting. And then they had really heated previews for both Finlay and Tsuji, as well as Shingo and Gabe Kidd. And there was a lot of really good brawling during the match and post match. Kind of got you, a little more hyped and invested in both of those programs.
Yeah, a little surprised to see how heated Tsuji and Finlay got. Because, I know that they've had a rivalry, but it seems like there was more kind of this respect that kind of got built between them, especially that last G1 match. Even at the beginning of this match, like, they were kind of like playing around with each other, and like Finlay was kind of, joking with Tsuji of, get your boy, Daiki Nagai, because Daiki was all up in Finlay's face, and it seemed a little bit more kind of like, we're rivals, but we kind of respect each other. But yeah, then towards the end of the match, they're just like brawling in the arena, like Tsuji's like throwing Finlay all around the crowd. I'm like, okay, like this thing's getting really heated. So that was good to see, and definitely bring some more intrigue to the match. And then Gabe and Shingo. Obviously, Shingo's been criticizing Gabe for not finishing a G1 tour and going to AEW and not being active as a global champion. And
all valid and true.
Yeah, and then Gabe obviously firing back, and so they were very heated from the beginning and all throughout the match, and so I think that's going to end up being a great match as well. And so, a question here from Death Triangle 720: do you guys think Hiromu and Nagai are potential winners for Super Junior Tag League?
I don't even know. It's hard. It's too hard to say right now because we don't even know who's going to be in that tournament. But I don't see why not.
The door's almost kind of wide open because you're not going to have Drilla and Clark because Drilla's a heavyweight. You're not going to have Catch 2-2. Akira's hurt, and TJP is not in Japan. You might get Jet Setters. You might not, depending on Kevin Knight's AEW schedule. Ichiban Sweet Boys will probably be in there. Outside of that, like what other junior tag teams are there? Like, I think it could be a
Young
pretty
Bucks.
It could be an open field for a team like Hiromu and the guy to win it.
The one thing that was intriguing to me was on the commentary, Chris Charlton had talked about how in the backstage comments that Shingo has started to allude to the idea that they do need to form an actual team with real team name and real gimmick and blah, blah, blah. So I'm wondering if they're holding off until a potential like title change, if he were to pick up the global title and then sort of make a declaration about who and what they are. So I don't know. Something to look out for.
Yeah, I feel bad for everybody who's bought their unaffiliated merch if they end up switching it up.
I have no sympathy for anybody who would buy that shit, you know?
Oh, man.
That's on you, dude. You know, you fucking mark.
Moving on to the next match, we had Master Wato, Togi Makabe, Toru Yano, and Yo defeating El Desperado, Ryusuke Taguchi, Shota Umino, and Yuya Uemura. Preview there for the Yo Desperado Jr. title match. Also some previews for the Never Six-Man title match that will be coming up next week as well.
You know, I'm not always paying attention to the pec scale, but once I noticed Yuto Nakashima's Yo came out, and I was like, Yo's got a big chest too, man. Like that for a little guy like that, that's pretty crazy. Like,
yeah, I feel like he's always kind of had.
I need to focus on my butterflies and my push-ups, man. Get my shit, going up. Like, what the fuck? But this is pretty much just a Hantai preview comedy match. The main thing going on here was just the preview between Yo and El Desperado coming up for the junior title. And I mean, nobody in the right mind believes Yo's going to beat Desperado. So
yeah. And they also seem to be kind of pushing Umino and Yuya Uemura as a tag team. And Death Triangle 720 says, do you think we're about to be stuck with Shota and Yuya teaming up more?
Potentially. I didn't really pick up on that. What did you notice when it comes to that?
Well, it kind of started towards the end of the G1 tour once they were both eliminated. Like, they had that 1-6-man with Tanahashi. And then it just kind of seems like they've been kind of paired up more together since that. With the whole like Umino's the ace and Yuya's the son or whatever. And so it seems like they're trying to link those two together. I could see them being a World Tag League team.
Yeah, I'm not really loving that idea because the last time that we had two Reiwa guys, that were poised to make a big splash in the tag league, that was like Umino and Narita, and it ended, with the whole, betrayal and yada yada, but it didn't really amount to anything that was business altering or changing. In fact, it was a setback for both guys instead of being something that propelled them. So, maybe if they did it the right way, but I don't have high hopes that would work out for either of them. And it seems like so close to Wrestle Kingdom, it's not ideal.
Yeah, you really want to get those guys heated up for big singles matches, which maybe, I guess, like you said, if you do it right, you could have it where they go to the finals, end up losing, it gets heated, and then you do a singles match between them. I guess if you do it the right way, it could work out, but I'm like, that's like December. It's like you think you'd want to build up more of a longer term program for these guys go into Wrestle Kingdom, but I don't know.
I'm thinking more along the lines of like, there's not going to be room for them to have a compelling singles match. We could be looking at something like Knockout Brothers versus them.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of, I mean, it's not terrible, but considering where you want both, where a lot of the fans, especially here in the West, want to see both of those guys. But, for me, more namely, like not necessarily Umino, but, it is not ideal.
Yeah. Then you have Umino going from, main eventing the Dome to being in one of the opening matches of the card. Yeah, not a great look for him.
Well, that's his own doing.
Yeah. Then semi-main event, we had House of Torture, Doki, Ren Narita, Sonata, Sho, and Yujiro defeating the TMDK team of Hartley Jackson, Kosei Fujita, Robbie Eagles, Ryo Oiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr. in 13 minutes 10 seconds. So preview here for Zack and Narita, and then for Doki and Sho defending the junior tag titles against the Ichiban Sweet Boys.
Yeah, we got Clark on the commentary booth during this match as well. And I thought he did pretty well and added a good amount being on the mic. The match itself was fine. I mean, it's sort of what you would expect from both of these two teams. I think one of the talking points that was noticeable was the kind of mean streak that's been coming out of Zack Sabre Jr. They talked about it quite a bit on commentary and mentioned that there's sort of a renaissance of his Suzuki-gun tactics and era. So, that was good to see. And then, I don't know, man, like, here's the thing when it comes to House of Torture, like, do I love House of Torture? Absolutely not. And I've had my fair share of criticisms against them. Even just very recently, but sometimes on a house show like this, I'm not as bothered by their antics. It's more in the big spots where it really soils things that you are hoping to see and hoping to be good. But on a road to show like this, in a small town with a decent crowd where they're getting good reactions, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I love what they're doing, but I understand what pro wrestling is. There's got to be bad guys. And I did think it was fucking funny at the end where they had like Big Jag in the center of the ring and every single member of the House of Torture came out and hit them with their fucking gimmicks.
Yeah.
To win the match. Like, I thought that shit was hilarious. And maybe that flies in the face of some of the ethos of what we've spread on this show, especially with like making the referees look dumb, but it's a house show. You know what I mean? Like, so I was fine with it. I thought it was funny, but this wasn't anything like crazy to write home about. I didn't love the match necessarily.
Yeah, I did enjoy the segments between Narita and Zack because, Zack was just, like you mentioned, up the intensity and was just on Narita throughout the whole match, and the way he was giving those European uppercuts and brawling with him and just kind of being more violent definitely brought some more intrigue there. And it was kind of what we were talking about last week. Like, if they kind of up the intensity and it's more of like Narita's forced to have to fight this guy because Zack is just taken to another level, like they could end up having a great world title match.
I hope so. I don't necessarily have faith that it's going to go that way, but that would be nice to see.
Yeah. And so that's those previews up there. That took us to the main event where we had the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, defeating Blue Justice, Yuji Nagata in 18 minutes and 11 seconds.
They did a fantastic job with the video package leading into this match, sort of explaining the extensive history. We did a preview last week and, I kind of fumbled through it a little bit, but, we were able to touch on a lot of those same talking points, and they had archival footage and these two guys, talking about what the rivalry has meant to them and the importance of it. And I thought Chris Charlton being on commentary, it made me feel good because he echoed a lot of the same things that I had said the week before. Obviously, I think Chris is a little more eloquent and well-spoken when it comes to like just concisely dealing with historical stuff. But it was nice to hear like I wasn't off base. My take on what had occurred between these guys over the years was pretty much spot on according, when you compare what I'd said last week to what Chris was saying on commentary, it's like verbatim almost. So that was nice. But I wasn't really expecting a lot from this match, but I really think they fucking delivered. Like,
bro, so do I.
Like, I fucking loved this match, man.
Bro, I went 4 on it.
I could be inclined to go even a little bit, not too higher, but like 4.25 probably for me. I thought it fucking rocked. And this was one of those instances where we talked last week about the who's the fresher guy. And I think it was proven that Nagata is the fresher guy here, but these two have so much chemistry and are so smart in the way they work. They were able to mostly, not completely, but mostly work around the limitations of Tanahashi. And not just, here's the difference though. Other matches that have been like good through this year and this, Tanahashi Final Road, there's been a lot of matches where they've been able to work around it, but they're still kind of just, that's all they're doing is working around it and kind of circumventing it. These guys were not only able to work around it, but also raise the quality of the match by leaning into the things that they were good at and that they have history with. And also the crowd really elevated things too, because it was a very pro Nagata crowd. And, we've seen Tanahashi. He knows how to, he can do the Bret Hart thing where it's like, oh, y'all want to boo me? All right, I'm going to play into this shit and, get you to kind of hate me a little bit here, play the proto heel.
Yeah, he did the Nagata lock 2, he did the salute, threw the guitar up, got the lock on him, and yeah, he did the figure 4 where he did the salute and then leaned back with it.
Yeah,
he was doing all, and he did his top rope taunt for the flip, and he was getting booed. Like, yeah, he was just hamming it up and bringing a great heel. And I loved on commentary they were talking about how Tanahashi was working over Nagata's knees because he wants Nagata to feel the pain that he's been in this past year. So that was great. And then Tanahashi took the Blue Justice suplex off the top rope, that exploder off the top, which was nuts.
That's one of the biggest talking points for me is, bro, every time in this match that Tanahashi took any sort of flip bump, suplex, he was not getting up for that shit. And Nagata was the one having to power him through all of it. And Tanahashi was barely clearing most of those flips. Like barely, like he was coming really close to getting dropped on his head many times. And it just kind of added to the gravity and like the danger and the excitement. And like Clark Connors was on commentary, like like yeah. Well, every time Tanahashi almost died.
Yeah, because there was a couple of spots where he was going for Nagata was going for the Blue Justice suplex, and Tanahashi was trying to counter into a standing crossbody, but he wouldn't get all the way over, and he would land on his head.
And I wasn't sure if that was an improvisation based on the fact that he wasn't getting over for the regular moves, and they were trying to like lessen what was going on by having him try to counter it like as an improv. But even with or maybe it was planned, but either way, he wasn't getting over.
Yeah, they did it twice, and he didn't get over both times.
Yeah, but the thing is like sometimes when you see someone mess something up, a lot of like inexperienced, you even see like experienced pro wrestlers do this where like they'll try a spot, they fuck it up, and a moment later they try it again. That's not what happened here. This was two distinct spots spread very far out in the match, where Tanahashi, and it was like kind of the story of the match where Tanahashi was trying to take some off of the Saito suplexes, but he wasn't getting all the way. He was almost taking more damage, and which is kind of sick in a way, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Nagata's really beating his ass, and yeah, he took that big one off the suplex or off the turnbuckle, and then bro, when he hit that senton off the second rope, he late era stage Jeff Hardy'd him where he's like, I'm not taking it. You're taking all of this shit. Like,
yeah. And then the strike exchanges were great. Nagata's selling was awesome. And then, Tanahashi was throwing in the Shote slaps in between, and they were slapping each other, forearm exchange to each other. It was great.
That's the thing that really stood out was the strike exchanges. There were quite a few of them where like it was this old guard, these two guys. And I love old man Puro matches where they just go stiff and just fucking beat the shit out of each other. And that's what these guys were doing. It was really awesome. But there was the last one, which kept going and going. It was the slap exchange. It was going and going and going. I'm not going to lie. Not a bitch, but like I got a little teary eyed, bro. Like, and I don't get that. I'm not like that emotional of a person, and I don't get that emotional about pro wrestling. But I'm like, dude, this is it. Like, this is the final stand. Like, these two guys are never going to wrestle one another again. And Tanahashi's on his way out, and Nagata was almost gone at the start of this year. And who knows how much long? I mean, who knows? I don't know. Fujinami is about to wrestle Zack Sabre Jr. So maybe Nagata will be around for a while, but like seeing him in the cerulean blue on the top stage against one of his compatriots, like this is it. Like this is the end of an era. And I'm not talking about like the 2017 golden era that we're talking. I'm talking about like the real era, like, you know, Simon Inoki, you know,
Inokiism. Oh man.
So yeah, I got emotional. And then, you know, the funny thing too is at the very, very end, it's like Tanahashi hit him with the standing or with the aces high off the top rope. He just like quads, like hit his waist.
Yeah.
And then he goes up for the high fly. Luckily, both times Tanahashi was steady this time, but he wasn't getting a lot of air. And like he, did a high fly flow, and he landed like in his midsection, like he didn't hit the chest.
And well, because also he had to do a twisting because the way Nagata was laid out, like Tanahashi had to try to pull a RVD and kind of do like a mid-air spin, which like he was able to, but like you mentioned, he didn't land.
5-star high fly flow.
He didn't land quite maybe as high as he normally would. But yeah, and also he gave Nagata a headbutt to knock him down.
And he bust him open.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an awesome match, though. Like, it was so much better than it had any right to be. Mm-hmm. And Tanahashi, like, you know, here's the thing. I know a lot of people have a lot of criticisms about what's going on with Tanahashi and his final road and the overexposure and the business aspects of what's going on with him, you know, and I think some of it is valid, but I don't think that you can just simply trust me, I get it. It is the wrestling business. At the end of the day, it is about business. It's about drawing. It is about making money. But for a guy that has given so much to not just pro wrestling, but to this company in particular, that he has this desire to work as many opponents in singles matches through the course of the year as he possibly can. I think that there probably had to be some semblance of people understanding, like, it's not always going to be an attraction if we have him work this many matches against singles guys, but it's what he wants to do. He wants to get in the ring with all of his old opponents and all the new fresh opponents and just go out there and lay it all out there. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And sometimes it's worked, sometimes it's missed. This was one of the times where it really, really worked. And I thought it was special.
Yeah, this was a great main event. And yeah, probably a highlight of this Tanahashi final road. Yeah, it's a special match, special atmosphere. You had the post-match celebration. Nagata's son came in the ring and took a picture of both of them. Yeah, so it's a good ending to their rivalry and this Blue Justice produce show.
Yeah, and he at the end when he was, I didn't catch all the post-show comments, but he did like a proto version of his and I'm the one doing the Tanahashi retrospective. You'd think I would know how to pronounce it, but like the Ashitame or whatever, like the I love you, you know, chant. But he also did a version of like Yuji Nagata's like salute. Like he combined the two. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. We did have a question here from Reddit user OK Conversation 9418. He says, Yuji Nagata's health. In one of the post-match comments earlier, perhaps it was in the New Japan Soul Tour, he said he was injured and we wouldn't see him for a while, wondering if that's still the case.
For Yuji Nagata?
Yeah.
We just saw him. I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
He looked great to me. I mean, wrestlers are always hurting. I didn't feel like he was hurt beyond not being able to continue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hate to say I don't know, but he looked good to me. But, we've heard of wrestlers working on injuries and they need to take time off to recuperate and yada, yada. Maybe that's the case, but I wasn't aware of anything like that.
Same. All right, so that does it for Blue Justice 16. We do have a couple of shows coming up this weekend. So on Friday, September 12th, we'd have the Shinichi Champion Presents Peon pay-per-view event from Korakuen Hall. And this is a 5-match special here. So the opening match, we have Shomakato, Togi Makabe, and Toriano will be taking on Katsuya Murashima, Yoshihashi, and Yuji Nagata. Second match, there's going to be a masked battle royal. So it's a mystery group of masked men will be in this matchup here, with the last one standing winning. Then there's going to be El Desperado, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Master Wato, and Bolton Oleg versus the House of Torture team of Dick Togo, Evil, Ren Narita, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. And then there's going to be a handsome Rambo match with Hiromu versus Yo versus Sho versus Yatsuda versus ELP.
That's very subjective.
And then the main event is the Generation Crash. So you're going to have Dangerous Tekkers, Taguchi, and Ishii versus Vegeta, Oiwa, Umino, and Uemura.
Sounds great. Can't wait.
Don't want to pay for it, though.
And it's on pay-per-view.
Yeah. So that's that. Then Saturday, September 13th, we got a Road to Destruction show also in Korakuen Hall. So we'll have Zane J versus Tetsuya Matsumoto, then Murashima, Yasuda, and Shomakato versus Makabe, Honma, and Tiger Mask, Bolton Oleg, Umino, and Uemura versus Dick Togo, Don Fale, and Evil, Daiki Nagai, Hiromu, Shingo, and Tsuji versus the War Dog team of Finley, Gabe, Gato, and Taiji. Then Taichi, Taka, and Ishii will take on Clark Connors and the Naka Brothers. Semi-main event will be Doki, Narita, Sonata, Sho, and Yujiro versus Harley Jackson, Vegeta, Eagles, Oiwa, and Saber. And then the main event will be for the never open-weight 6-man tag team titles. Wato, Yano, and Yo will defend against Desperado, Tanahashi, and Ryusuke Taguchi.
And I guess now that you're mentioning it, that sixth match of the night was also a quasi preview for the open weight 6-man tag team titles as well.
Yeah.
Top to bottom, this show, I mean, it's very, very similar to what we just saw for the Blue Justice show. The one big difference is, obviously Ishii is back, and, you got Tanahashi teaming in the main event with Desperado and Taguchi going after the 6-mans again. But that's about it. The only other thing that I do think is kind of interesting is this little mini story that's going on with Yasuda and Tiger Mask, and they are opposite one another in the second match of the night again. But the rest of the show is pretty chalk. Hopefully they're able to not just rehash the same angles they did on this night. Maybe they can give us something a little more substantive and kind of have a continuation of the stories. Because that's the one thing when you're watching New Japan, it's like they have a show like today where it's like the wrestling's good, but there's angles, little mini angles for previews, and you get invested, but then they do it again and do it again and do it again. And they're redoing it every time for the live crowd. And it's like, for us that are watching at home, like it'd be okay to just continue the story, and to build upon it.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of creative stuff they could do with the Road 2 shows and kind of doing different angles. And I get it. It's the house show model where you want to do the same thing every town. So every town kind of sees it. But I do think you can kind of mix it up to, especially since they're being broadcasted. And then Monday, September 15th, we have a Battle Line Hokkaido Road to Destruction show. It's coming from the Hit Arena. So open up, we're going to have a Noburetsu Rambo match. So another battle royal here. Then we'll have Daiki Nagai, Shingo, and Yota Tsuji taking on the War Dogs team of Finley, Gabe Kidd, and Gato. Then Taichi, Taka, and Ishii versus Knockout Brothers and Taiji Shimori. Then Doki, Narita, Sanada, Sho, and Yujiro versus Harley Jackson, Vegeta, Eagles, Oiwa, and Saber. And then the main event is a 2 out of 3 falls match with Desperado, Tanahashi, and Taguchi versus Makabe, Honma, and Yano. So the first fall will be a 6-man tag match. Then the second fall, each team will nominate 2 members of the team to face off in a tag team match. And then if the third fall is needed, it will be Tanahashi versus Yano.
Did they already say that that's what it's going to be?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, kind of a really weird card here.
Glad they're doing all these, the New Japan Rumbles. They always deliver. So, it's going to be really good.
Yeah. So those are the 3 upcoming shows we have this weekend. And then that takes us to the news.
Yeah, so let's jump into the news here. So I don't know. I don't know why I was waiting for you. The New Japan Pro Wrestling Fan Club has been given a new look and new nickname. It is the NJPW Global Fan Club, which leads me to kind of wonder, why did they get rid of the USA Fan Club? And does that lend any credibility to the idea that there is less emphasis on the US market and less emphasis on running shows in the States? Because if there's no fan club in the States specifically, how can you get benefits for the shows that they're not going to run here? So I think this kind of makes sense why they're kind of amalgamating everything back into like a global fan club, probably like focusing on other parts of the world, especially like Europe and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then they also launched a Discord as a part of that, and they're trying to up the kind of the benefits of being a part of the fan club.
Yeah, you have to pay for that to be in the fan club. So looks like our Discord's cooked. So see you guys over there. The one other thing too is you don't have it here in the news, but they did a pre-sale for ringside Tokyo Dome seats. There was, I think, about 40 of them, each one priced at like $750, and they sold out in just a couple minutes earlier this morning, or maybe late yesterday. So those are gone. We're still waiting for the international tickets to be made available for like regular peasants like us. But yeah. Yeah. They also announced NJPW New Year Party. Join Walker Stewart, Chris Charlton, and some very special guests in a live recording of the official New Japan podcast at Toriano's famous Eberita's restaurant. So I think we should probably have a meetup.
Yeah.
When we're there.
Definitely. This gimmick here, they're going to have an open bar throughout the duration of the event.
Then we might want to go there.
They're going to have a Chanko there, so you can eat like a young lion.
Hiroki Goto officially announced as E Honda for the upcoming Street Fighter movie. Some very interesting names that I saw listed amongst that movie, not just pro wrestlers, but like all sorts of like combat sports athletes, and then other different differing levels of actors. So very interesting. Hiromu Takahashi defeated Yohei today to become the new GHC junior champion. Yohei was the longest, or I think he was the most successful defending GHC junior champion at like 10 defenses. This was his 11th, and they switched the title to Hiromu. We had a question from MJ. Says Hiromu's side questing as GHC champ. Let's talk about it. Any chance Hiromu doesn't resign?
At this point, it's hard to say. Like, he's for sure going to come back and resign. I mean, we've seen a lot of big shifts and changes and people leaving who we never thought were going to be leaving. And I mean, if he's not happy with creative or his role in New Japan, I could easily see him shifting over and going somewhere else.
We had some really great comments from Discord poster Tokyo Go Odd Jobs, and I didn't ask his permission to post this, but It's in our Discord, so I feel like I've got the carte blanche to go ahead and read it. But no, I thought he had some really great stuff. And so some of the things that he mentioned, he said last week when we were talking about who ZSJ was wrestling that we weren't sure about, that was Keita Yano on the next Tenryu Project show, possibly the last ever one that they run. And then he also went on to say, on that note, seeing so many NJPW guys work outside Hiromu and DDT and Noah, Despy and TJPW and Basara is perhaps something to put a pin in. So, that is something we're seeing a lot of this year is like, we know that there's plenty of New Japan talent that are essentially not under full contract and have the ability to work freelance, but many of them just don't, because they're working under a handshake deal, but they're New Japan guys, they're working very busy schedules and, the pay has been good in the past, but we've heard about changes and things like that. And I think it is interesting. We're starting to see more and more of that take place, especially right now. And that takes us to the next part here. Zack Sabre Jr. will be taking on Tatsumi Fujinami at Tradition's November 14th show at Korakuen Hall. So another date where current, IWGP World Champion Zack is working outside again.
Yeah, and in the past also we've seen guys. Also, we have our whole excursion match of the year, and we've seen guys work outside the promotion. But lately, it just when guys are working outside, just feels a little bit different with just how many talents we've seen leaving New Japan in the last year.
I also wanted to read this. I thought I wanted to do this earlier when we were talking about Tanahashi's Final Road, but it got away from me. So, Tokyo Go Odd Jobs, and this is a little lengthy, but I thought it was worth reading. He said the Tana Dieno stuff that you guys mentioned on the pod, he's talking about last week. I, of course, understand silly stuff is not everybody's cup of tea, especially the simulated ass play kind. But it was a super interesting match from the emotional perspective. It was a huge, huge achievement for Dieno to get this match. And also from a historic storyline perspective, Tana is the asshole who belittled DDT back in the day, the personification of the bad vibes between the companies. And now, as the president, he has to step in front of those fans on their promotion's big day against one of their most beloved wrestlers of all time and engage in all the shit that entails. He absolutely was a good sport about it too. He talked to the papers about how much he regretted his words from back in the day and how he hoped this would help settle any outstanding debt he had with DDT. And I think that it's really cool of him, especially since he's kind of being positioned as the face of Japanese pro wrestling's industry by the virtue of being the boss of the biggest promotion. I also felt like it also felt like a really big match, unlike most of the stuff Tana has done on this retirement tour, where he's been a little bit, overexposed. Dieno, on the other hand, in many ways represents a kind of ultimate underdog who ends up becoming successful, beloved, and relatively important, despite being in many ways an unorthodox fit for the traditional mold of what a wrestling star should be. Definitely worth watching, even if dry humping is not your cup of tea, just to see and hear how the crowd ate it all up.
Nice. Well, I'm glad for that extra context there. And yeah, with that more context, it does make it seem like more of a bigger deal why that match was happening.
Yeah, and we've talked extensively about DDT's history with Tanahashi, especially during the Takeshita match. And I don't know why it didn't even pop into my brain, like the connection that he's returning to that company and that, the fact that the thing is, we've seen silly Tana in New Japan over the most recent years, but there was a time where that never would have happened. So to kind of have that added context, it does, it does make it pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's about to be 9:00. I do have to step away for a moment. I know we're about to go into the questions, but I'm going to step away, feed my dog. I'll be right back. I know we're actually doing good on time. We're going to wrap up pretty quick here. So.
All right, well, I'll start answering questions here. So first question here from Rambones Slam Pig. He says, if the rumors about Kenny Omega making an appearance soon are true, other than a possible Tanahashi match, is there anyone else on the current roster you would most like to see him work with? I think a Gabe Kidd rematch would be awesome based off their Wrestle Dynasty match. I think him mixing it up with somebody like Yuji would be really great for Tsuji, and maybe helping him kind of elevate to the next level. We haven't seen it in a while, but a Kenny versus Zack match I think would be really great. I think they had a match in maybe it was the 2018 G1. I don't think they really had too many matches in New Japan against each other, and I feel like Zack is on a whole another level from the last time they wrestled, and so I think Zack Omega match could be a great matchup to do. Trying to think if there's anybody else. I mean, those are kind of the names that come to mind. I mean, another Goto match with Goto's elevated status could be a cool thing as well. So those are kind of some of the players that I would think would be worth a Kenny Omega match, and you could build it up and do something great there. But I do think that I'm feeling strongly now that Kenny is going to be Tanahashi's mystery opponent for Tokyo Dome. We know Tanahashi or Omega is in Japan right now, seeing doctors, kind of some follow-up visits, and it's going to be off of AWTV for a while. And there's also kind of rumblings that he potentially could make some New Japan appearances while he's there in Japan. So, I mean, there was a whole thing initially of Omega and Tanahashi were supposed to face the Young Bucks, and it seems like they were kind of building some stuff up with Kenny and Tanahashi working together. And so maybe they go back to that route. Maybe you bring that match back up and you do a Kenny Tanahashi versus the Bucks at some point leading into Tokyo Dome. But I think it would be a great last match for Tanahashi to face somebody like Kenny Omega. Obviously, they have great history, and Kenny can still go and can help, I think, definitely guide Tanahashi through a great Tokyo Dome match. And, of course, Big Ken needs to get that win back from 2019 Tokyo Dome. So that could be end up being a cool matchup to see. Next question here from Aspiring Shoulder. If you were to kill Gato with hammers, what kind of hammers would you use? Very interesting question here. I think I just would rather just fire Gato off into the sun and just let him burn in the universe and not have to worry about any more bad booking again. His next question, it says, it was mentioned that the New Japan roster has always branded itself as challenging some kind of authority or tradition, with New Japan's dominance over the Japanese wrestling scene becoming so apparent and their stalling business. What sort of tradition do you think the roster will try to challenge next?
I think what he's referring to, just to bring some clarity here, we were talking about, and this is the kind of conversation that does creep up in the Discord. We were talking about what New Japan needs to change to kind of gain a measure of success. And we were talking about how, like, right now there's a lack of fresh direction, fresh ideas, and even innovation. And I had pointed out that historically, now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that New Japan hasn't been super successful and on top of the industry. They always have been. But with that being said, they have anytime they've ever had a boom period, it's always been as some sort of, I guess a challenger is a good way to put it, but a break with tradition, and you can go through the history of the company. You look at Inoki, and he was the antithesis of what Baba and the NWA and JWA and the entirety of like Ricky Dozan's pro wrestling had been built on. And him being this challenger brand that was broken away from the NWA and focused on simulated fights and kind of being an outlaw sort of territory, he was doing new and fresh things. The entire idea and ideals of strong style were in complete opposition of the classic style pro wrestling that the NWA kind of stood for at that time. And then you can look at other people like Ricky Choshu and him bringing in the high energy, high spurt style of wrestling and his, foul mouth and his bad attitude and starting like the first really successful faction and Ishin Gundan and, really like doing something that revolutionized wrestling and doing like it wasn't the first, but it was like the first really successful invasion angle and how many times that's been replicated. Akira Maeda being, the badass with, who doesn't play well with others. And he was shooting on guys and, being the embodiment of what the UWF and UWFI and all of shoot style kind of became. Like, these are the kinds of stars, that you point to. And then you look at like Hashimoto and he like bad body wrestler, a guy that doesn't look like he should be on top of the company in any way, shape or form. But, his matches were fights. They were spectacles. And he was this, somebody that people could get behind and believe in. Same thing with like Muto. Muto was in modern times, you wouldn't think of Muto as being like this revolutionary guy, but in 1989, when he was in Jim Crockett and he's doing these back handsprings and these crazy flash, elbows and the moonsault, like people had not seen a guy his size do that sort of stuff, and him bringing that to, back to Japan. And then not only that, but also the gimmick of Great Muta and the pageantry and the character behind it was in such that stuff was in such opposition of what you would think of as Shinny-Han pro wrestling, and the list goes off, Chono's another great example, a guy that like embodied heeldom, became a cool heel, started, got rid of the colorful gimmicks and put on the black attire and, really embodied the same sort of ethos that like DX and NWO in America sort of represented. He like was doing that in Japan at the same time and like somewhat even kind of before those guys. So anytime and then obviously there's and you know what, Tanahashi is another great example. A guy that like took Inoki's pro wrestling and Inokiism and just turned it on its head and went back to classic pro wrestling and went back to the physical aesthetic of being a really built guy with, and he kind of turned New Japan for a long time into a pretty boy promotion, because look at how many, Kota Ibushi, Jay White, Okada, like, all these guys had to be like uber handsome and appeal to women. And that all started with Tanahashi, and he reshaped what New Japan was into his image away from what like Inoki and Inokiism like had been prior. So anytime there's been a shift, it's always come from a top star doing something new and fresh. And right now we're like lacking in that. And it's not always a creative thing. It's not always like someone with the book, doing something intelligent, but sometimes it does come from the creativity of like the actual guys themselves. What's that thing that they always talk about, like with the Attitude Era, was like these guys with their own personalities, but turned up to 11. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that's like missing in New Japan right now. And like the only two most recent guys that have come back that you can point to and be like, yeah, they get it, is like Yuto-Ice right now.
Yeah.
And Tsuji.
Yeah. The rest of those guys, they're struggling to find that kind of edge and personality and something that really captures the whole crowd.
And Daiki Nagai hasn't even become what he's going to become, but he's another guy that you watch him on screen and you're like, okay, this is somebody that gets it. And you're just sort of waiting for these guys to be given the ability to do whatever that new direction is. Like, so, what do I think that they're going to do different than what they've done in the past? That I couldn't tell you, but, they need something fresh. They're too much stuck in their ways. And I think that here's what I will say. There's a lot of people that think that they need to adopt more of a Western style of things, the Western mindset. And the problem with that is that while they're on top of the industry in Japan, the industry in Japan is struggling right now. Mm-hmm. And their two main competitors, even though I don't think they're in the same stratosphere, but like just in terms of like, modern comparison, what they're, what audience they share, they're really competing internationally with AEW and WWE. And the last thing they need to do is adopt more of what those people do. They need to differentiate themselves and go a totally different way, present their product and their stars and everything they do different from what WWE and AEW do, and not be a Western centric product. And I'm not saying they totally are, but I'm saying like they need to try different things that, you know, make them unique to what the rest of the wrestling world is doing right now.
Yeah, when they do rely on a lot of Western tropes of, you know, ref bumps and interference and run-ins and people having weapons and stuff like that. And so I think there's a lot of some of the Western stuff they do they could shake up and kind of revert back and not do a lot of stuff that, yeah, AEW and WWE are doing to make it stand out and make it feel different.
Yeah, I mean, there have been plenty of things that they've done in the past that have, you know, whether it was like the junior explosion and really investing in the junior heavyweights and allowing that to reinvigorate the card. There were times where they moved into a more hardcore element and brought in like Onita and had the exploding barbed wire death matches and shit like that. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but I do kind of wish that they would move to a more sports centric, serious sort of presentation. I'm not saying that it needs to be drab and unglitzy and boring. That's not what I'm advocating for, but like maybe different camera angles, maybe a different way of interviewing the wrestlers. Maybe it doesn't always have to be just that tail end, video that gets tacked on at the very, very end. Maybe they could look at what real sports do and kind of adopt some of that stuff and bring it into New Japan, and then also focus on new ways of telling stories. Because after a decade plus of Gato's stuff, it just feels monotonous.
Yeah, it feels like it's, you know, the same stuff, just you have some new people to kind of plug it in, but it's kind of the same patterns and stories for the most part that we've been seeing.
I would like to just briefly, I'm not going to extensively answer these questions, but I'm reading through them. I missed them. I see the question about Kenny, who he would work if not Tanahashi. My knee-jerk reaction would be Shingo.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that one.
They've never wrestled. It's something I would really love to see. I don't know if it makes sense for the Dome, but there's definitely a Zach.
I mentioned Zach. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that they need to wrestle for the title, and I'm not saying that that's a Dome worthy match necessarily, but like they only had the one match in the G1 that one time, and we were waiting for the return match, and it never happened. And that's one that I'd also like to see. Those are the two that stand out. I mean, I guess, did you say Takeshita?
No, I said Goto as an option.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I saw some people talking about Takeshita, and I'm like, they already wrestled only, in AEW, and it's who wants to see an all AEW talent match at the top of the card? And that's not for me. But
and I also mentioned Tsuji as one of the top young guys that Kenny could potentially help get to the next level.
That could really help him for sure.
I also mentioned the Gabe Kidd rematch.
Save that shit for AEW. You know what I'm saying? He also asked if we were to kill Gato. I'm going to skip over that one. I'm not trying to kill the man.
I said fire him off into the sun.
I mean, I think he's going to get drafted for FOH this year, but that's...
Oh, definitely.
We had people listening. They didn't know what FOH stood for. So if you guys are listening, I always forget we have like new listeners. They don't always know, but like the end of the year, we're going to have the fuck out of here draft where this show and One Nation Radio, we hole ourselves up and drink copious amounts of alcohol and talk the most unfiltered, uncensored shit about everything that we hated in pro wrestling for the year. And it's one of the most controversial and beloved shows we do every year. And if you want to get a taste for what it potentially might sound and look like, you can find all of the other FOH drafts in the Social Suplex archives, and most of it's evergreen. Like,
yeah, I mean, we end up drafting Vince every year, and obviously, you know, there's still a lot going on with him, and so yeah, I think a lot of what we touch on those shows, it's always like an interesting look back, a little history of like what's like the biggest kind of controversy or things that just really sucked in wrestling that year. So it's really fun. The 2024 version is still available for donation to get the download, but it will be made released more towards the holiday time, and then we'll get ready to record the 2025 version in December.
And we've already got the date selected. We've already got a location set up, and we've got new stuff coming down the pike. I think that, you know, there might be video, you know, so we might be live streaming potentially. We got some stuff planned. So this is going to be the biggest and best year of FOH ever.
Yeah.
And we're having to go out of our pockets this year to procure the location. So y'all better pay us more to make up for the loss.
Next set of questions here from Doc. He says, you know, a lot of people give credence to AEW having slow ticket sales because of a slipping economy, but everybody mocks New Japan despite Japan facing steep declines. I believe people mockingly say yen down. Why do you believe so many jump to defend American companies but laugh off financial woes of the country of Japan as a big reason business is down?
Maybe you have something there, Doc. I don't know. But I'll be honest. I feel like that sounds to me a little bit like reaching. I don't know, Jeremy. You're more in the sphere than me. I'll be honest with you. I haven't heard anything about the main reason that AEW's business has been down being due to economic, like a slipping economy. Is this something that is out there? Have you heard this? Like what
yeah, I really haven't heard that. I mean, most people kind of point to WWE's success as a reason why AEW has struggled. Also, the whole brawl out was definitely a big black eye that hurt their business as well. And so I really haven't seen a lot of people pointing towards the economy, more of just the competition and some just booking decisions and the company just not being hot since, you know, the whole brawl out stuff. And, you know, they are picking back up, I think, creative momentum, but we haven't seen, huge shifts in ticket sales or ratings yet. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just tough with WWE and how much what they're doing business wise, and you know they're about to be on ESPN, and there's just a lot moving for them in the right direction that it's just really hard for, I think, AEW to compete.
And at the same time, I will say this: like I listen to some of the voices that are out there when it comes to business, whether it's Dave Meltzer or, you know, WrestleNomics, even like Voices of Wrestling. And I mean, they've pointed out how there are, you know, there's successes for both AEW and WWE, but there's clearly some marked declines when it comes to both of their businesses right now, kind of happening simultaneously at the same time. So, but I don't know how much of that is due to the economy in and of itself. I've never heard that personally, but where I do think he has some accurate truth is that there are fans in the States that are willing to basically like simp for AEW and defend almost any and everything that they do, but will be highly critical of like New Japan. But the truth is there's fans on the other side of that fence who do the exact same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's classic tribalism 101. And I don't know, you know, far be it from me to tell these fans how they should feel or what they should think. But I do think that there is a lack of well-intended, well-informed you know, individuals who can intelligently, you know, discuss ball and talk about pro wrestling on the level that this show does.
Yeah. And I think right now, with New Japan just not being as hot as it was, it's very easy for the internet to kind of pick on it or make fun of it or kind of shun it aside when, for other people, they see other companies as hotter. And so I think that's a lot of what probably Doc's seeing too.
And there's a lot of reasons that New Japan's business is where it is today, and it's not all due to the yen being down.
Yeah.
Does that play a part in it? Sure. Is that the only main contributing factor? Absolutely not.
Yeah. Next question here from Ginger Infringer says, what do you see Finlay doing at Wrestle Kingdom outside of a potential match with Gabe over the global title? I can't think of where else they would book him on the card unless they just throw him in the Rambo.
Hopefully it's not something involving Evil again, but I feel like that is potentially in the cards.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he got his revenge back on Evil in G1. I mean, I think Finley's a guy that you would hope would be positioned in a big, either a grudge match or title match. Maybe the global scene, if you do want to kind of crack open that, Finley being outside of Gabe, is going to retain against Shingo. Outside of that, I don't know where you go. I don't think I would put him back in the Never division with Oleg. I think you want to try and set up a personal rivalry with him. I mean, maybe he could be what's his face, his opponent. Blanking on his name, judo guy, Aaron Wolf. He could be Aaron Wolf's opponent.
I'm not a big fan of that idea. So just throwing that out there. I think the most compelling idea is him versus Gabe, just because of the history. And I know that there's probably some people listening and they're thinking like, ugh, Bullet Club Civil War all over again. But it could be a little bit. It doesn't have to be like an entire break of the Bullet Club. It could literally just be like a personal issue between these guys, dealing with the leadership and dealing with the title. And, there is this whole lingering question about, in kayfabe, the loyalty of Gabe Kidd. They're starting to, work that. And again, this could just, we see this stuff happen a lot where it's like the creative doesn't even necessarily like play into the storylines that are taking place. Like guys are given the ability to just kind of riff in the backstage and say what they want in their promos. And you got Shingo calling out Gabe for a lot of things that are very plausible. And that may be intended by Gato, but it could literally just be Shingo just, I don't even want to call it going into business for himself, because it's like they're allowed to do it. But if it is something that's being brought to the forefront and being talked about, I don't see why it couldn't be played upon when it comes to the remainders of the War Dogs and his relation to them, as it, pertains to like what's going on with AEW and Jon Moxley and then the Death Riders. It is a little bit, kind of mixed up. And one thing I really liked that Chris Charlton said on commentary was he was like, when what's his name? I'm getting tired. Oh my God. Yeah. When Gabe had done that one press conference and was kind of questioned about everything that had happened in North America with AEW and everything. And he like just kind of skirted around. He addressed it, but he skirted around it and said like only those who like compete in the ring, like have the ability to question me on my shit. And I'm kind of paraphrasing. But now Shingo is that guy who is in the ring and he is questioning him on his shit. And that's like sort of the impetus behind this feud. And I'm wondering if he does retain, does it continue? Do we see a rift between him and Dave Finlay? And I think that that's the most compelling thing you could do for both guys right now, especially if there is a strong possibility that Gabe leaves the company. You want to do that match. There's been too many times where they've had opportunities to tell these kinds of stories and then they don't get around to it. They keep putting it on ice and then they miss the timing on it.
Yeah, I think, if he's leaving, Finlay kind of being the one to beat him out of the company makes a ton of sense. And, we saw Finlay kind of do that with Jay White as well. And so I think there's kind of a history there. And so, yeah, I think it's I think it's a layup of a feud, and it makes perfect sense. And you can kind of have some division there with the War Dogs, and maybe you kind of have guys like Clark and Trilla kind of siding with Gabe, and then maybe you have the Knockout Brothers going with Finley, and so you can make it interesting and build some heat up for sure. This next question: how many of the War Dogs do you see realistically staying with New Japan for the foreseeable future? I feel like Clark Connors is going to join AEW to be with Tekla, along with Kid, with how much he's already been booked over there. Even Finley, I'm not as high on staying with how he's been booked this year. Could Maloney end up being the only War Dog left within the next 1 2 years?
I will say this. When it comes to Dave Finley, I don't think he's going to AEW. And I'm not saying that that's because he wouldn't go. He worked like one date there several years ago, and they've never brought him back. You know?
Yeah, he had a match, I think, with Hangman, I think.
Yeah, he had a Hangman Adam Page match. What was that, on Collision?
I think it was on Dynamite.
Or Dynamite, and he never has returned. So it's almost like that was kind of a quasi tryout. But we know about the well-documented connections that he does have in WWE, and I don't know if there is still a door open there for him to potentially, explore that option. But I feel like that's a lot more likely for him. Even if it just meant he ended up working like developmental, in Full Sail, that's a possibility. But I think this is just my personal opinion. I think Clark Connors is leaving, and I think Gabe Kidd is leaving. I don't expect to see them around much longer. And so then who would be left? And those are the only two guys I feel confident are leaving. I think anything else is possible, but that would leave you with what? You got Drilla,
Knockout Brothers,
Ishimori, and Dave Finley. Is that it?
Yeah.
Very different from the War Dogs we started with.
Well, that's a pretty solid group, though, right there.
It's not a terrible group, no.
Yeah. Next question from Rich Latta. He says, Canelo versus Bud. What's going to happen here?
I'll tell you one thing. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but I don't think very many people are going to be able to watch this shit. Because it's on Netflix. And the last time that they did a big fight on Netflix was the Mike Tyson versus Logan Paul or Jake Paul match. And some people were able to see it, but and I was one of them. So many people were unable. You know what it was? You could watch it on your phone, but playing it on a TV was almost impossible. Playing it off of any sort of app other than like on the computer or on your phone. It was like, it just froze. It was crashing. They were overloaded, and they bragged about it too. There were like 80 million people worldwide, and it was so big, no one could watch it. Yeah. It's like, that's not a good number. It's a great number, but it's not good that many people were unable to actually watch the event. And you would hope that they've worked out some of the kinks because they are showing like WWE Weekly. But when we hear these speculated but plausible numbers that WWE is doing weekly, it's like, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what they're going to do with Bud versus Canelo in a true blue super fight. It's probably going to be like 100 times more people.
Yeah, I think they did an NFL game after that. Tyson
didn't that fuck up?
I think that did better than the fight, if I remember correctly. But I could be wrong. But I think that they've tried to make some improvements to their live stuff.
This is an interesting fight, just because Canelo is. Here's something a lot of people don't realize. Terrence Crawford, even though he spent most of his career between like 130 and 147. He's got a very wiry frame. He is technically bigger in terms of height and reach than Canelo. He's 5'8". He's got a 74-inch reach. Canelo's 5'7" with the 70.5-inch reach. So he does have some physical gifts, but Canelo has been competing at the 160, 168 range for a long time. He's basically cleaned out that 168 division and fought a who's who of that weight class. Terrence Crawford, his last fight was at 154, which is junior middleweight. And I thought he looked terrible with the added weight on. And I personally thought he arguably might have lost that match on the scorecards, and kind of got gifted a decision. So it is going to be interesting to see. He's moving up 31 pounds from his optimal weight to take on Canelo, who is at his optimal weight. That's tough. With that being said, I've been talking with Rich about this a little bit off the air. So like I decided to do a little bit more digging and kind of feel out like, how do I feel like this fight's actually going to go? And so like with Canelo, he has some advantages, but he has some disadvantages. He's definitely got the better chin. We've seen him like fight guys all the way up to like 175 and plus, and never been knocked out, like very rarely ever been stunned or dropped. I don't think that Terrence Crawford's going to be able to hurt him in that way. He also is just so he doesn't get the credit for it, but he's one of the greatest defensive fighters I've ever seen in my life. Oftentimes when people talk about defensive fighters, giving them the credit, they always talk about guys that are going backwards, and he doesn't really go backwards too much, but in the pocket, he's able to deflect and roll and, avoid so many shots. And not only that, but combine it with offense and counterpunching. He's very, very, very dangerous at that. But the thing with Canelo is like, he's very calculated. He's like an outside box. He can do a lot of different things, but he's not a guy that's going to swarm and hard pressure Terrence Crawford. I feel like if Terrence Crawford was coming up and he was fighting someone that was, in and out like a Mike Tyson or a Joe Frazier style, he would have probably trouble at that weight class, but that's not how Canelo fights. So he's going to have a chance against him. Canelo is younger than Terrence Crawford, and he has been fighting more actively over the years, and he's more experienced as a pro. Beyond that, he's a stronger guy. He's naturally heavier than Bud, and he's got incredible combos. He hits harder than him. He has great hand speed. He's really, really good at finding the openings with his timing, and he's very persistent. Even if he's not like a pressure fighter, he comes forward a lot, and he's got incredible counters. So I think where he's going to struggle, though, is guys that are faster and more fleet-footed than him that can go in and out and can work angles. They give him trouble. And if the fight goes deep and the pace is too high, especially with him right now, Canelo is on his decline. Like the last the last 6 fights that he's had have been against suboptimal competition, and he hasn't stopped any of them. He's clearly he's lost a step. He's not in his prime anymore. On the other hand, with Terrence Crawford, one thing that he's really good at that he doesn't get the credit for is body punching. And Canelo does struggle with body punches, and a lot of people haven't been able to take advantage of that. I think that Terrence Crawford might. He is a lot faster than Canelo. He will be taller. He will have better reach than him. I think he's going to be able to exploit Canelo's susceptibility to timing changes. Like Canelo is a little bit predictable in the pace that he fights at. And Terrence Crawford is a switch hitter, and he can change his pace and his tempo and take advantage there. Even though he's an older guy, he has less miles on his body in terms of like wars and the amount of hard fights that he's had. He's a fresher guy, but he is moving up to those 2 weight classes, and I think the weight is going to slow him down and give him some trouble. He is better at controlling distance than Canelo. He is better with timing, and he's able to adjust to more different styles of fighting. And I think he's a more versatile guy with better strategy. Here's the thing that I'm not sold on. They're both incredible counter fighters. And I think they're both going to want each other to come forward to create openings. And that might not create a great fight. But the thing with Terrence Crawford, he's not as durable as Canelo. He cannot take as much punishment. He's not as good at taking a punch to the head. When he switch hits, he's very vulnerable to timing. I think Canelo will take advantage of that and find those openings. And he also starts fights a lot slower than Canelo does. It takes time for him to pick up his rhythm and to get deep into the fight. So I'll be honest with you, looking at everything, I think both of these guys have some negatives going against them. I think this is a cash out fight. I think this is literally like this generation's Mayweather Pacquiao, where it's like they found the right time to cash out, and they'll both be on the significant downside of their careers after this big money match. I got Canelo after 12 rounds. I think that Terrence Crawford is going to do a lot better than people think he'll be able to do. But I think as time goes on, the persistence of Canelo and his timing and his strength will be the difference maker. And I don't think Terrence Crawford's going to be able to take him, into the deep waters. But I'm expecting like a 115, 113 Canelo sort of situation. I think it'll be a good fight.
Nice, and that is coming up this Saturday, September 13th, fighting in Vegas, and like I said, it's going to be streaming on Netflix. All right.
I will say this, though. Steven Breadman Edwards, who's one of my favorite fight analysts, he's one of the few guys that's taken Crawford in that fight, and he's right a lot of the time. Most experts and all the odds have Canelo ahead. I think there are some very, very key similarities here to Hagler and Leonard. And Leonard was a guy who was returning from retirement, looked bad in his last fight, had never fought at 160, and people thought he was going to get blown out of the waters, and he beat Hagler in a 12-round split decision. So you just never know. You never know. It is possible. Crawford could beat him.
Interesting. Next question here. Def Triangle 720 says, I know we're all focused on Tana's final match and the world title situation for Wrestle Kingdom, but I don't see how they can make the show truly big without reestablishing the rest of their other divisions. Do you think the undercard has any strong stories for Wrestle Kingdom?
I disagree. I don't think that the undercard is as important from a drawing and overall show perspective. The best Wrestle Kingdoms, in my opinion, always focus on the top 4 or 5 matches. And they're long shows with like 12, matches, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. There is good quality underneath for sure. And I think it's important. You want that stuff to be well built. You want good quality matches. But the best Wrestle Kingdoms, the top 4 matches are the ones that really draw and the ones that really deliver. And that's where their bread is buttered. So they need to be like using their top guys and using top stars that they have access to from the outside, people that are going to draw, people like Naito, people like Kenny Omega, mixing it in with who they currently have on top.
Yeah, I think they need a compelling world title match. So Takeshita versus whoever he's going to face, that needs to be compelling. Tanahashi's opponent needs to be compelling, whether that is Kenny Omega or Nakamura, or whoever else they could potentially find. Like that needs to be or Naito, whoever, that could need to be a compelling matchup. And then from there, like some of these young guys need to be put in some compelling positions. We talked about like that Finley Gabe Kidd story could be interesting. Doing something with Uemura and Umino needs to happen. I think Zack Sabre Jr. is a guy you find a big match for as well. And then you also have the Aaron Wolf debut, which is being set to be a big thing. So again, that's something that I think could be compelling depending on who he's going to face.
I mean, at the top of the card, when you've got Tana's retirement match, the world title with Takeshita versus whoever that will be, and then Aaron Wolf, those are 3 highlight, attraction matches. Will the quality be there? I don't know. How good is the show going to be? I'm not sure. There's a lot of questionable question marks where I'm just not sure. But in terms of the attraction, they're not lacking in terms of attraction. They've got stuff that will intrigue the public. How will the business be? I don't know. Are they going to sell at the Dome like Tanahashi wanted? I don't think so. But especially with some of those ticket prices. But it's not so imperative that the card be stacked top to bottom like maybe sometimes people think it is. If you go through the history of Tokyo Dome shows, there are legendary shows where it's like, yeah, that stuff on the bottom was really cool. But it's always like the top 4 matches that really sometimes 3, like the ones that really matter, you know? One thing too, I wanted to throw this out there. So I don't know if I have felt like Naito versus Tanahashi could potentially be the match, but there's been reasons that people in our Discord have like thrown out about like Naito's recovery from his eyes and everything like that. Maybe he won't be ready or ring shape for that moment. And then there's this new speculation about Kenny Omega taking time off, getting surgery, being in Japan, and potentially, you know, the report was maybe working some dates in Japan. And then you start thinking like, okay, maybe he's going to work against Tanahashi. Maybe he's going to work with Tanahashi, one or the other, who knows? But if he does, let's just say he does end up being Tanahashi's final opponent. You know what that screams to me, Jeremy?
What?
Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Because Shawn was a guy who was on his last legs as well, but people weren't necessarily recognizing it. And, you know, that was 2008, and Shawn was done by 2010. But Flair, you know, the whole purpose of him wrestling Shawn was that he wanted to wrestle the best guy in the world, on the best big match wrestler that he could possibly wrestle, who would make him look good in the big spot. And like, they had history together, certainly, but not the extensive kind of history that you would expect from, you know, it wasn't like he was his most rivaled opponent, like a Sting or a Triple H or what have you. But it was a guy that, like, they had some history, they could pair him up, it made sense, and it was someone who could get an incredible performance out of him. And I mean, the truth is, who's better on the big stage than Kenny Omega in the Dome? Who can get more out of Tanahashi on that stage on that night? If Omega can't do it, nobody can do it. And they've got 2 singles matches, you know, they're neck and neck. So there is some history there. Do I think that he's not Tanahashi's most storied rivalry? Far from it, but they got history. It makes sense.
Yeah, and I was mentioning that earlier too. Yeah, Kenny needs to get that win back from 2019. So
yeah, you could say that, but it's like he beat Tanahashi for the Intercontinental title in the first match.
Yeah.
So it's like they're 1-1.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Kenny would be a great opponent for Tanahashi. It would be the perfect guy to take care of him, have a big epic matchup. You can play into the whole history of them going into that Wrestle Kingdom match where they're talking about the future of the IWGP title and Kenny potentially leaving the company. And there was kind of a lot of like back and forth that they had in the press that really made that match intriguing as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot of layers there to dive into of if they do Omega and Tanahashi. And I think that is a very attractive match for Wrestle Kingdom. And I mean, that would definitely be worth the trip for me, seeing a Kenny Omega Dome match and it being in there with Tanahashi. So I think that, along with Takeshita title match, the Aaron Wolf debut, I think that those can be some really big attractions for that event. So moving on to the next question, Wukong 901. Think after Destruction they'd run Gabe Tsuji again. This is something we talked about last week, that potentially the winner of Finley Tsuji in Kobe, maybe the winner goes after the global title. So you could have Tsuji beat Finley, and then later on he comes out, challenges Gabe Kidd, and you run that back again. Or I could, if Finley ends up beating Tsuji, I think that could open the door to get you your Finley Gabe match. But I'm not so sure that Gabe Tsuji will definitely happen again.
There was a time where it felt like that should be like a Wrestle Kingdom match, but it also felt like it should be for the big belt and headline the Dome. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen now.
Yeah.
So, and also I don't know if they can ever recreate the magic of Gabe Kidd in those first few months following the Kenny Omega match.
Yeah.
So,
last question here from Slam Lord 69. If Aaron Wolf's debut is confirmed for Wrestle Kingdom, how do you see it playing out? A while ago, there was speculation that it would be Tanahashi's final match, but surely that seems primed to backfire if not executed almost perfectly. P.S. Keep up the good work.
So, probably last year, around the time that the hurricanes came around, which is not far from right now, started getting a little lax, Jeremy. Started getting a little lax on the eating. Started getting a little lax on, like me, I'm usually pretty dedicated. I work out a lot and drink water, try to like keep everything, in order, but started getting a little lax. And then it was like, I'm up on the horse, then I'm down, I'm up and I'm down. And then it got to a point where earlier this year, I got my new job and I got a promotion, and like my schedule just got haywire, and I hadn't been able for a long time to get to the gym or to work out or even make myself food. And I was just eating like shit and I wasn't working out, and I got kind of big, bigger than I've been in the past. And I started noticing that the clothes weren't fitting right. And I started noticing that, I wasn't feeling my most fit self. So like recently, after like, getting my meds in order and some of my health stuff, I started like prioritizing, like, you know what? I'm not going to take these calls for this hour. I am going to block off an hour so I can go during my lunch so I can fucking work out. And I kind of like rededicated myself. And I also like started like focusing on like apps that can help me with like my schedule and with my nutrition, and started focusing on meal prepping. Not always the best at it, but most weeks I end up like prepping most of my lunches and dinners for the whole week. And I'm telling you, Jeremy, even at my worst, I've never looked as bad or as in bad shape as Aaron Wolf does when he's standing at ringside with that young lion shirt on.
We should have brought that up earlier. Yeah, I was not really impressed with the look that he's been having on ringside.
This does not look like a guy who's going to go out on January 4th. I mean, we got time, bro. And like, I almost feel like, I don't know, brother, but it's September. And I feel like based on the regimen that I've been keeping, the amount of, H2O, I'm keeping myself hydrated. I'm keeping myself protein filled. And, I'm active. I'm taking enough steps. I'm clanging. I'm banging. I'm lifting the weights. I'm fighting. Like, I'm doing it all. And I think I might be in better shape and look better in, let's see, it's September, October, November, December. We got 4 months, bro. He better fucking get it together. Because if I walk into the dome looking better than Aaron Wolf,
maybe you could be his first opponent.
No, we've seen me wrestle. I'm trash, but like, we don't know if he's good, and maybe he'll be trash too. I don't know, but I hope he's in shape, because I mean, he's been in shape plenty of times in the past, but right now this looks like a dude who's just eating Chunko and doing nothing. He doesn't look like a dude who's hitting 1,000 squats and
right. I'm like, how's he going through that Noge dojo system right now?
It seems ridiculous, bro. I can't remember ever seeing any young lion with that shirt on looking so rotund. Like, what the fuck? At my worst, bro. At my worst. I remember when we first started the show. Well, that was like, maybe there was 2 times I got really heavy, and one of them was like towards the start of the show, and another time was like in the midst of the pandemic. And there's a picture of you and me and was it Undeadly Dean or Gentleman Dragon? Who did we take a picture with at the SEO or CEO or whatever?
That was
we ran into a listener, and we had just started the show, and we've got our red Social Suplex shirts on. And bro, that was a wake up call, because when I saw that picture, I was like, oh man, I'm fucking fat. Like I'm legit fat. Like, that's terrible. And bro, I was not as fat as Aaron Wolf is right now.
Oh man, yeah. Well, hopefully, he pulls, the Tanahashi, and he walks in the dome with abs.
Bro, I'm 100% a proponent of the gas when it comes to pro wrestling. I don't give a fuck. I know some people don't like that, but it's like, it's not real sports. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In fact, like, I don't know if I care about it in real sports like that much. I think the one thing about it is like it creates an unhealthy competitive environment where it's like you're forced to do that or whatever. But like in pro wrestling, where it's all about like
the look,
the look and the ability to recover and the aesthetics of it all, like, bro, this dude should get on all the gear, all the gas, especially in Japan. They don't give a fuck, bro. do you know that like in Pride, you know about Pride, right?
Yeah.
They had clauses in their contracts that allowed them to do steroids. That it specifically stated that they wouldn't test them for steroids of any sort, that there was no expectations to test them. That's the environment. So it's like in pro wrestling, bro, I don't know, man. Like you need to, I know that there's like stuff that you can take that, like what was that shit that John Jones was taking?
Oh,
Ostarine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can take Ostarine, which will help you to build muscle and burn fat simultaneously. And why is he not on that shit along with whatever? I don't know. I'm not a gear guy. I don't like going to the gym, but like there's probably people out there that know what the cocktail this dude needs to be on in the regiment, but it's like, you better do something because he's got 4 months, bro. And I'm walking into the dome natty, and I feel like I'm going to be in better shape than he is.
Yeah, he needs to double up on those dojo sessions. Like, he needs to be doing double whatever young lions are doing right now.
Now, I will say this. Thank you for the question. It has been confirmed, or unless they change it, it was confirmed a while back that Tanahashi will not be his first opponent. Like he's not going to be Tanahashi's final opponent. Plus that would be in a sense, unless they really marketed it and got a huge, like, unless they thought the juice was worth the squeeze, it wouldn't make sense to split these two attractions and combine them into one, mm-hmm. when they could have Tanahashi's last thing and Aaron Wolf's debut be separate and both contribute to the number. Unless they did think like doing that final match with his debut and unless they thought it was a big enough attraction that it would really put butts in the seats, but I don't know. But
Tanahashi said that he wouldn't be Aaron Wolf's opponent, but he did kind of compare it to like a new, like one ace ending, potentially a new ace starting. So I mean, there is pressure there.
There's a lot of pressure for Aaron Wolf to like really, really, really deliver. And you know what? It probably is going to be Zach, because they've already teased it. Zach is definitely dropping the title at King of Pro Wrestling. And he's going to need a high profile match. I think it's going to be Zach versus Aaron Wolf, but I don't know what that looks like. Is it just going to be Aaron Wolf throwing Zach around? Like, is this going to be their Hashimoto Ogawa situation? Like, is that what we're looking at? I don't know how this is going to really play out and all that.
Yeah, I mean, Zach would be a great opponent for him and somebody that could guide him to a good matchup. But yeah, what that looks like, what's the layout? Do you want to steamroll Zach like that? So yeah, lots of questions to figure out there. Well, that's going to do it for the show. So next week, we'll be back to review these first set of Road 2 shows and cover all the latest news. So remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, you can sign up at patreon.com/KIStrongstyle. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate. Click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. Make sure to connect with us on social media on X and Blue Sky. Follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, at Jeremy L. Donovan, at YB_Josh and Liger. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/social suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Josh is Keeping It Strong Style on YouTube. We are at Social Suplex. You can join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me, Jeremy, at socialsuplex.com. Check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio with Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite with Floyd and Austin. Imps AEW Adventure. Wrestling Art with Chris Things. Tunnel Talk with Ali and Aaliyah. And the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Chiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.